Winston? Winston? Come back with that leg of lamb.
I could never get my head around mince pies at Christmas as a young kid growing up. I think it was the candied mixed peel in the mincemeat, you know, the store-bought mincemeat, that when you bit into them, you were just waiting for any minute for some of that peel, and it was just, nasty. But then I became a chef, created my own recipe, and figured out how the royal family ate them, and now I can't get enough mince pies at Christmas. Homemade mincemeat is really easy to make, and it all goes in one pan together, and you can make it weeks and months and even a year ahead if you want to. Everything just goes into the pan, and you can put the different flavorings in there. If you don't like the mince peel, the mixed peel, the candied peel, I really don't like that, then you don't have to put them in. If you don't want currants in there, don't put them in. Here's my recipe. It all goes in the pan. Butter, plum raisins, almonds, orange peel, a little cloves, cinnamon, nutmeg, and mixed spice. Then some brown sugar, regular white sugar, some apples. I grated the apples, but I'll leave the skins on. And finally, some brandy. Now, don't worry about the alcohol in the brandy, because we're actually going to cook this for about 5 to 7 minutes, and that burns off and cooks off all the alcohol. If you're really worried about it and you don't want to use it, substitute for orange juice instead, or you can even do half and half. It'll come out perfect, but the brandy really gives it a rich flavor. It goes onto the stove now, and it's going to cook for about 5 to 7 minutes. We just want to rehydrate those raisins, and the smell is incredible. In olden days Britain, mincemeat was a way of actually preserving meats, and people would take venison and dice it into small pieces and actually cook it, and the brandy and the sugar and all those gorgeous spices all went together to make the most delicious, amazing pie. Fast forward to today, and in modern Britain, meat is no longer used in the mince pies, and over 500,000 mince pies are eaten over Christmas alone in the UK. That's crazy. After about 5 to 7 minutes, the brandy is reduced right down, the raisins have just opened up, rehydrated, plumped up, and we get this syrupy mix that looks like this. Then we need to let it cool for about a week, a month, a year. If you're going to make them right away, you know, today, tomorrow, obviously you've got to let the mixture cool down. So put it into a bowl and refrigerate it. And once it's cold, then you can start making your mince pies. I make mine about 6 months ahead. Put it into mason jars, and when you open it up, it smells gorgeous. This recipe is enough to make about 2 dozen nice sized mince pies. The pastry is really important on the mince pies too. I'm sharing my recipe in the description below. It's nice to make it ahead of time. You can make it the day before, but it does need to set up and rest a little. All you do in the food processor is add flour, butter, sugar, little cream, and some egg yolks. Recipe below. Blend it all together and make a beautiful dough like this. Then we can roll it out. Don't worry about the cracks and creases and everything else in the pastry. Once it's in the tartlet molds, you can actually push that all together and remold them, and it's perfect. What you do need to worry about is making sure that the pastry is about 1/4 of an inch thick. We don't want it too thick that it's got a real soggy bottom and is all gooey. So once we've got to this stage, 2 cutters, one larger one, one smaller one, and that depends on the size of the tray that you're using. I've sprayed a little oil into my tray here, and then I'm going to cut some circles. Next, we carefully push down in the center, and you can see it's breaking a little bit. That's because it's real flaky pastry. That ratio of fat and butter and cream in the pastry that's going to make it so super rich is what's causing it to do this. But don't worry, they won't fall apart once they're baked. In Victorian Britain, the aristocracy used to give away pies like this, and it was a sign of wealth. Then go around each one of the tartlets, and any little holes that you see, just push the dough so that it covers every little hole, because we don't want all the mincemeat falling out. Then scoop up the rest of the dough and save this because we're going to use it for the lids. And now we'll put mincemeat into each of the tarts. And now the lids. Using the smaller cutter, we'll cut out the circles again. And they go on top of the pies and press down. Now you notice I'm not putting any egg on there to make them stick. And there's a reason for that, and I'll tell you in a minute. But I am going to put a little egg on the top to give a nice glaze. Into the oven, 350 degrees for about 15 minutes. I'd always had mince pies with whipped cream or brandy sauce before I started working for the Queen. Then I was introduced to brandy butter. These gorgeous little nuggets of brandy and sugar and butter that you popped in the refrigerator, pulled them out whenever you wanted one. Absolutely gorgeous, and they take mince pies to the next level. Again, super easy to make. Softened butter, powdered sugar, and 1/4 cup of brandy. Onto the machine, and you're just going to beat it until there are no lumps. Once it's all mixed together and blended in nicely, then I'm going to put it into a piping bag. I've got a star tip on the end, it makes it look pretty. You don't have to if you don't have this fancy stuff, then you can just put a few dollops onto the parchment paper. But into the piping bag. And then I'm just going to pipe some tiny little nuggets. This was always my first job when we got to Sandringham for Christmas with the royal family. The mincemeat had always been made months before, and I'd make hundreds of these and then pop them in the freezer and just pull them out then as I needed them. The mince pies would go into the royal dining room along with the brandy butter into the refrigerator overnight. After about 15 minutes, the pies are nice and golden brown. And once they come out of the oven, we've got to let them cool down. And I mean, really let them cool down. We've got to leave them until they go cold. If you try and lift these out now, the beautiful, rich flakiness of the pastry will just collapse. And so you've got to let them go completely cold. I know, it's hard, they smell gorgeous, but hide them away somewhere. Go for a walk. Once they're cold, then you can run a knife around the edges and carefully lift them out onto a serving tray. Later in the day, around lunchtime, once the entree had gone into the dining room, then you could put the pies back in the oven. And we had to do that to get them really, really hot. You saw earlier when I made them that I didn't put any egg on the lids because I didn't want them to stick to the mince pies. We take the brandy butter and then just lift it and then put some brandy butter into each one. And that brandy butter would just melt into the mincemeat. And by the time they got into the royal dining room, oh my goodness, they tasted absolutely gorgeous. Then, just before they went into the royal dining room, a little powdered sugar on the top. We had to be careful how much powdered sugar we put on top of the pies. I remember one Sandringham, one Christmas, Prince Philip nearly choking because he inhaled the powdered sugar off the top of the mince pie just as he was about to put it into his mouth. For the Queen, we'd take them and have to blow the sugar off before sending them into the royal dining room. Sorry, Winston. You look like a snowman. Ho, ho, ho. I'm kidding, of course. We didn't really blow on the Queen's mince pies. But finally, I'd got the most amazing recipe for not only the mincemeat, but the pastry and the brandy butter as well. Make these at home, make them for your friends, make them for your family. They'll absolutely love them. The royal mince pies. If you haven't subscribed, then do. Please click on the like button. Give me a thumbs up. Give me a comment below. Merry Christmas, and I'll see you again soon. Ho, 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 Winston. These are so good.